yet, but we were playing phone tag. Buckner, fortunately, had a sense of humor. He agreed to marry us. We were a pretty bedraggled crew when we reassembled in the old chapel. Rain poured down the stained glass windows and hammered on the roof. I glanced over at Anna de Leon, our homicide detective friend, who was toweling off her daughter, Lucia's hair. Anna smiled at me. I gave her a wink, but it was painful to hold her eyes too long. It was hard not to think about her husband, who should have been standing at her side. Larry the Buddhist rang his gong and lit some incense. He chanted a sutra. Then Buckner began talking about the marriage covenant. My eyes met Maya's. She was studying me quizzically. Maybe she was wondering why she'd agreed to hook up with a guy like me. Then she smiled, and I remembered how we'd met in a bar in Berkeley 15 years ago. Every time she smiled like that, she sent an electric charge straight down my back. I'm afraid I missed most of what Buckner had to say, but I heard the "I do" part. I said the vow without hesitation. Afterward, we waded through the well-wishers, my old girlfriend, Lillian Cambridge, Madeline White, the mafia princess, Larry Drapewski, the retired deputy, Milo Chavez, the music agent from Nashville, Messrs. Terrence and Goldman, Maya's old bosses from the law firm in San Francisco, my mom and her newest boyfriend, a millionaire named Jack Mariner, all sorts of dangerous, rain-soaked people. We ate soggy wedding cake and drank champagne and waited for the storm to pass. As Maya talked with some of her former colleagues, Garrett cornered me at the bar. My brother was wearing what passed for wedding garb, a worn tuxedo jacket over his tie-dyed T-shirt. His scraggly beard and poorly combed hair looked like a wheat field after a hailstorm. His tuxedo pants were pinned up, since he didn't have legs, and he'd woven carnations through the spokes of his wheelchair. "Grats, little bro." He lifted his plate of tamales in salute. "Good eats." "You congratulating me on the tamales or the marriage?" "Depends." He belched into his fist, which was for him pretty darn discreet. "What you got planned for the honeymoon?" Right then, my internal alarms should have been ringing. I should have backed away, told him to get another plate of tamales, and saved myself a lot of trouble. Instead, I said, "Nothing, really. Maya's pregnant, you may have noticed." Garrett waved his hand dismissively. "Doing nothing for your honeymoon. Don't cut it, little bro. Listen, I got a proposition." Maybe it was the joyous occasion or the fact that I was surrounded by friends. Maybe it was just the fact that it was raining too hard to leave. But I was in the mood to think well of my brother. I would have plenty of time to regret that later. But that afternoon, with the rain coming down, I listened as Garrett told me his idea. Chapter 2. He got to the cemetery at sunset, drove around it twice to make sure there was no surveillance. He doubted there would be, but he'd learned to be paranoid. The sky was blood red. Corpus Christi Bay glowed like metal on the forge. The old cemetery had iron gates and limestone markers, the oldest worn smooth by storms and gulf winds. He found the graves with no effort, one large, two small, lined up cozily on a knoll, enjoying the $1,000,000 view. Like they come to watch fireworks, he thought. He knelt and ran his hands along the names, as if that would erase them. The top of the smallest tombstone was lined with seashells, a cockle, an Easter oyster, a blood ark. He'd spent years collecting shells like these along the Texas coast. He dug them out of the sand, let the ocean wash them clean, held them up to the sunlight, and admired the pattern of their veins. Had the child liked seashells? He didn't know. He'd never even met them. The mother's obituary picture had run in the newspaper. Her smile had seemed so familiar. The dates of her birth and death. Cold had gripped him as he realized what he'd done. He'd caused this, and now there was no way to bring them back. The only thing he could do was make amends, if he had the courage. He took something from his pocket, a tiny